Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today let's have a look into the A2A Piper Comanche just released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, starting this video, let's go back a little bit in time. A2A simulations has been known for a long time in the flight simulation world for their add-ons in previous simulators like Prepared or FSX, and back in the day they were among the best to create anything. And nowadays, they really took a long time to get their aircraft into Microsoft Flight Simulator, but they made very good use of that time. So let's have a look into what they deliver with the A2A Comanche 250. So we should start by mentioning that Scott from A2A actually owns the very aircraft that you see on screen right now, the November 6229 Papa. And I still remember from his times in P3D how committed he was to that particular aircraft, and I can only look forward to experiencing it flying for the very first time in this video. So, in the introduction on the manual, they actually say that they didn't spare any research. They did whatever they could in order to get their newly called aerodynamics engine, AccuSim 2.0, which really is more than aerodynamics, I should say, running in Microsoft Flight Simulator and programming it basically from scratch. So I'm really looking forward to what they could deliver with this. Now, going right into it, the main features of this one are the brand new external aerodynamics engine built with AccuSim 2.0 Merlin technology, remarkable performance accuracy based on operating A2A's own Comanche 250 over many years, unparalleled aircraft feel, handling characteristics and trim behavior based on extensive flight testing, a complete physics-based per-cylinder simulation of the Lycoming O540A internal combustion engine, dynamic ground physics featuring true weight-on-wheel simulation, tire side loading and response to different surface types, advanced turbulence system and subtle wing flex simulation which responds based on turbulence strength, ground bumps and fuel load, sophisticated airframe vibration physics with unique ground roll and engine vibration-based effects, and an authentic fuel system simulates fuel lines, primers, strainers, and fuel contamination. There is much more to this, but I think it is best just to experience it on our own. So, I haven't actually flown the airplane before. This is the very first experience I'm doing with it, except for my experience with a previous Comanche back in P3D. However, this is an entirely new aircraft, so I'm totally looking forward to see what this one is going to turn into. Okay, let's hop right into the cockpit and find our way around. My preparation for this video was basically reading the product manual, and I can absolutely recommend you to do the same. You can download it for free on the product page on A2ASimulations.com, and you can even have a look at it before you purchase the copy. Talking about purchasing of the copy, I would like to thank my lovely viewer Lahar for gifting me this copy of the Comanche to have a first look into it. So, let's start straight from it, and this is what the product manual looks like. This is really where you should start your Comanche experience, not only because it is one of the most complete manuals I've seen in the entire Microsoft Flight Simulator world, but also because there is so much good information in there. Starting on the performance graphs, which really make it possible for you to calculate pretty much anything that you would calculate when flying the real airplane, and then going on further detailed system descriptions like you would find them in the real pilot operating handbook of general aviation aircraft. And then going down all the way to the normal procedures, which you have in form of brief checklists, but then also in terms of an expanded explanation of the normal procedures. And the same goes not only for normal procedures, but also for emergency procedures. So this is really one of the best manuals I've seen in a long time. Okay then, I did have a look at it previously though, and I don't want to bore you with looking at the manuals, so this is 4.5 minutes into the video. We haven't flicked a single switch in the cockpit yet. So how about we start having a look around into what this airplane can actually do. And as I told you, I'm seeing this for the very first time, just like you are seeing it in this video. Well, you've probably seen it on a lot of other YouTubers yet, and I surely hope you did, because there are loads of great people doing videos about it at this time. So make sure that you don't only watch mine, but also watch theirs, as there is a lot of great content around. Alright then, let's have a quick look, and I'm going to start about with the tablet. So I think you all have seen the screenshots of the airplane, so I don't need to go too much into the actual modeling over here. But what I want to go into is the options we have available in our tablet down here. And we basically start up over here with our 6229 Papa. And on the flight info page we just get some general information here. And a little bit of quick and dirty help for our departures. So I'm sure we can make good use of that. Later on we have our checklists, also very handy over here. And we also have the emergency checklists in here. Going on to the controls, we got a lot of miscellaneous controls that we can set over here. But going on with some of the important stuff that I'm sure most of you guys will find most important. Obviously you could assign all of that, but let's talk GPS. So there's several different GPS options available in this. And we can, for example, install a 430, we can install a 530, we can install both of them, and we can put in a 750XI, which, again, I totally love this GPS. Unfortunately, it has some problems with the frame generation of the new RTX 40 cards, so for that reason I'm not going to use the 750 in this video. Instead, I'll take things simple, and I'm going to install a simple GNS 430. Again, we are going to fly VFR only today, even though this airplane is IFR capable, but we are going to fly VFR only today, and therefore we are only going to need this single GPS. Okay then, I'm going to keep the rest of that stuff pretty much as it is. And let's have a look into the fuel and payload page. So we need to start with 2 pilots. We just need to, because obviously I'll need an instructor to get me comfortable with this. So let's do it like this. Okay, from here on, let's go ahead and have a quick look into the maintenance, because that is something where A2A has always shined in the past. And I can see that they are just as good over here with just as many options. So down here we can change how our plane looks like. So we can have a new plane, a used one, and we can have one on an auction, which basically is going to adjust the wear and tear of the airplane. So of the stuff we have available over here, lots of stuff we can break in the plane, which is a really neat feature, and I see Simmers breaking the propellers all over. Then you can see in here we've got our engine, we can do the inspections. So if we do an inspection right now, obviously everything is going to turn on green, but this is all the stuff that you can break if you mess something up flying the Comanche. So that is really worth it, inspecting every now and then, especially if you don't follow the procedures of the manual to the letter. Okay, going over, we have our engine analyzer, and finally we can have a look into the electrical system and all the lovely stuff we have available down here. So again, lots of stuff you can check in here, and lots of stuff that comes in handy. Okay, let's head over to the walkaround. This is a feature I'm especially excited about, because, well, walkarounds in A2A aircraft have always been totally different from any walkarounds in other aircraft. So let's start right on this. And you can see where this is going, can you? This basically leads us all around the airplane. We can have a look at the different parts, but before we actually start doing that, I believe there are a couple items we need to do right inside the cockpit, so how about we do those first? It certainly is going to make our life easier to follow the procedures. Okay, so let's bring us right back into the cockpit. Now, it would be nice if there were some instructions on exactly what to do over here, but basically what we need to do is this. It more or less works the same in most aircraft. Okay, let's get rid of the control locks. Turn on the master switch. Okay, so we have got to check the fuel pumps. You could hear it operating there, that's all we need to do. The landing gear is down and locked, and the landing gear lever is down. And finally, let's go ahead and extend our flaps, because we want to check those. Okay, and that's the master switch off again. We don't need to check all the lights today, because we are going to do a flight in daylight only, and not a night flight. Okay, by the way, did you notice you can pull the tablet around in the cockpit so that it doesn't obstruct your view, and you can put it pretty much where you want it. This is surely pretty cool in VR, but like this, when you are just about handling your systems, works very well in flight deck as well. Also, you can, for example, put it over to the other side. So that's really handy, isn't it? Being able to move the cockpit throughout pretty much, or being able to move the tablet throughout pretty much the entire cockpit. Really, really cool. Okay then. So let's start with our walk around. We're going to inspect the flaps, making sure there's no damages over there, and we are going to move them a little bit. See that? I can actually grab the flaps and move them just to be sure that they are fitted correctly. And yes, you can and will find damages occasionally. Same thing on the aileron. Let's have a quick look there. Okay. So tip tanks. Let's quickly have a look. They should be mostly empty. We only had some 3 gallons of fuel in them. I wonder what happens if you actually keep them open. But knowing A2A, I'm pretty sure I know what is going to happen. Okay, also have a look at the light and everything looks good. Okay then, let's drain a bit of fuel. Okay, no signs of any air or anything in here, so you're not supposed to throw that away like that. Okay, let's move on. The landing lights are looking good. Then our tie downs, I think we can remove them over here, like so. Okay, let's have a look into the main tank on the right-hand wing. Should be full. And indeed it is full. Never trust the fuel gauges on a general aviation aircraft. Never, never, never. Those are lying to you. They absolutely are lying to you. Okay then. Always inspect the tanks yourselves. Cool, then let's have a look into the front, into the wheels, and we can remove the chocks as well. We won't need those. Okay. Next up, we are going to drain some fuel at the engine. It might not work at this point. Indeed, it doesn't, because we never ran this aircraft. It's a brand new aircraft, so obviously there is no fuel in the pipes. Okay. Have a look at the propeller, have a look into the engine intake, if there is any signs of birds nesting or anything the likes. But this is looking good. And then we continue and inspect the engine oil. Right, you can see oil is about 3/4, and that is perfectly fine. Okay? I wonder what happens if you leave the oil tank open. I'm tempted, but let's fly the plane properly at first. Okay. Cool, over to the right, to the left-hand wing. Again, a look into the fuel tank. By the way, I did witness a story already where somebody left the tank open. And guess what happened? They came back on a single tank because it only took a couple minutes for the fuel tank to completely run dry. Okay then, let's get rid of those. Quick look at the landing gear, everything's looking good. And yes, things can break. Okay, remove the tie downs and the pitot covers. Again, I'm tempted. Lights are looking good. Quick look into the tip tank. And that is empty, and the navigation lights are looking good. Okay, let's drain a bit of fuel on this side as well. Again, no bubbles or anything, that's really what you're looking for. Okay, aileron looks good, and the flaps are looking good as well. So our pitot static port is clear. Let's move to the aft part of the plane again. Rudder is moving nicely, and the rudder as well. So sorry, stabilizer and rudder are looking good. And we can remove the tie down. I wonder what happens if you keep just the aft tie down in place. Oh man, so many things. I start thinking about stuff I shouldn't do. Okay, so static port on the other side is looking good. Actually, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, and finally we got a little bit of luggage here. So how about we stow that in the plane. Okay, looks good. And we are done with the walk around. Perfect. I'm really thrilled to power this up. Okay. Let's close the door. So we should have everything under control now. So let's go ahead. Pre-flight complete. Passengers briefed. Seatbelts. Can we handle seatbelts? I don't think we can. That'd be too cool. Okay. So seatbelt secured. Control lock is removed. Park and brake. So let's try and set that. Okay, we need to press the brake pedals in order to set the parking brake. That's cool, isn't it? Okay, gear switch, down, flaps. Again, mechanical flaps on here, so just look at how quick they move. That's typical Piper aircraft. Okay, radios. They're all off. Autopilot master, off. And avionics master off. All electrical switches are off. Circuit breakers. I believe they're located somewhere down here, aren't they? Yeah, down here they are. And this is what it would look like if one of them was popped. So, if you don't see the white part, then your circuit breakers are looking good. And this is an amazing model, isn't it? Okay, so circuit breakers are checked and the rotating beacon can go on. Cool, that's the before start checks complete. Then, let's go through the engine start checks. Fuel selectors, desired tank. So first of all, let's put those on. Okay, I'm sure I'm gonna do something wrong, but let's go for it. So, mixture, rich, throttle, cracked, props, full forward, carb heat, off, master switch, on, fuel pump, on, fuel pressure. Checking it down here, and we can see it rising indeed. Very good. Okay, so fuel pressure is rising. Then fuel pump off. Primer 1 to 5 strokes. Okay, let's go for it. 1, 2, 3. Let's do 5 because the engine is still brand new. No fuel at all in it. Okay, that's our engine primed. Magnetos. Both. Okay, propeller area, check clear. It definitely is. Okay, cool, let's go for it. Starter. Here we go, the engine is running. Okay, oil pressure. Checked. And then mixture lean as required. Well, let's get the RPMs under control at first. Between 800 and 1000. So I would say about 1000 looks just about perfect. So let's lean a little bit. Make sure that it still runs perfectly. That looks about good to me. Okay, that's the engine starts completed. Let's turn to taxi. So, primer locked. It is. Then, avionic master. On. Ampere meter. Checked. Radios. Are coming on. Why do we have an oil warning there? Here. It'll refuel. Nah, come on. We don't need to do too much with the computer. Okay, we just don't need to do too much on the computer right now. Because we'll take it analog at first. That's going to be something for us to learn a little bit later on. Okay, so. This looks good. We'll keep it pretty much where it is. And we're flying online, so let's go ahead and tune Honeycomb. And on number 2, we're going to tune the guard frequency. Like so, and we'll certainly listen to both. Okay. Like so. Okay, perfect. Radio's on, transponder. They want it on alt. Well, yeah, we can do that. It's gonna annoy ATC, but doesn't matter. Okay, altimeter set, so we're at sea level over here. So we might as well just set that. Heading indicator, this is showing north right now. This is more like 160, so let's go ahead and synchronize that. Okay, yeah, 160 roundabout. Not gonna be perfect, but doesn't have to be. At least not for what we are doing today. Okay, landing gear lamp, green, nav lights as required. We can leave them off today. It's gonna be daylight all the time. And then park and brake release, brakes and initial roll test, and that's gonna be the taxi checks complete. Okay then. We do not need this anymore, and I would say we are clear on the left and clear on the right. So, don't have any taxi lights on this plane, so we can use the landing lights instead. And that's our brakes released. Brake check. I was a split second before saying pressure 0, then I noticed, wait a moment, I don't have a brake pressure indicator to look at. Okay, altimeter jumping a little bit more, that's fine. And then let's go ahead and start our taxi. So, rolls very nicely with the typical thrust setting that we've been using for the warm-up as well. That helicopter is parking a little bit strange. Let's go around that. Okay, RPMs down to 1000. We can go down to 800 RPMs for the taxi, that is totally fine. However, we shouldn't go below that. Personally, I like to stay a little bit above the minimum because, I don't know, I sometimes have fat fingers touch the throttle and the result then is that you go below the minimum. So 1000 works just about fine. And it is an easy value to remember as well, isn't it? Okay, one more avionic over here. Let's turn on that ADF as well. Okay, a bit more power, we're going slightly uphill. Okay, 340, 340. Instruments are turning as we go along. Perfect. That is what we're looking for. Very good. Okay, that's the left turn. That's the right hand turn. Instruments responding. Perfect. Okay, with that our instruments are checked as well. And now we can really go ahead for the interesting things of life. Namely, flying an airplane. Okay, so a couple things here from the product manual that you should be aware of when you go and fly the Comanche. First of all, there's the speed. If this flies anything similar to the ACUSM aircraft back in the good old P3D days, then you want to know at least some basic operating data. Okay, let's set the brake, we're at the holding point. Okay, 1000 RPMs, looks good. So, if this flies anything similar to the ACUSM aircraft in P3D, then you certainly want to be familiar with some of the normal procedures at least. So, first of all, we need to do an engine warm-up between 800 and 1200 RPMs for not more than 2 minutes in warm weather or 4 minutes in cold. Well, it's quite warm today, 22 degrees up here at Emden at the German North Sea, so the engine should be warm by now. So, magneto check at 2000 RPMs, the drop not to exceed 125 RPMs with manifold pressure of 15 inches. The engine is warm enough for takeoff when the throttle can be opened without the engine faltering. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our run-up. Magnetos go on. Now let's give it 2000 RPMs. Okay, that engine certainly sounds alright, so it is warm enough. So, 2000 RPMs, let's do the magneto check. Right. Drop is about 90 RPMs, I would say. Both. Left. 100 RPMs, that's fine. Both. Okay, we're also going to check the carburetor heat. We pull that out, we should observe, again, about 125 RPMs. And indeed, that is what we get. Okay, carburetor heat back on. And that is basically our engine run-up. Okay, cool. The propeller should be moved through its normal range during the warm-up check for normal operation and then left in full, so let's do that. Here we go. Okay, and that is our initial run-up complete, so we can go back down to 1000 RPMs. So let's quickly go over the takeoff procedure before we actually go ahead and commence our takeoff. Going to do a little bit of leaning here as well, just to be sure. Okay, so for the takeoff, we check controls free and neutral, and we can go ahead and do that now. Okay, that is our controls checked. By the way, while we're checking the controls, do a quick look outside there and see how the airplane responds, because obviously the elevator and the stabilizer is covered in airflow from the propeller. But okay, that's that. So, let's read a little bit through the normal procedure before we go ahead. In a smooth and steady motion of the throttle, apply full power according and allowing the aircraft to accelerate in 3-point attitude until the control surfaces become effective. Then begin applying slight back pressure on the control column to lift the nose wheel. At the maximum takeoff weight and without flaps, the aircraft should be rotated to leave the runway at around 85 miles per hour. So, just a quick note over here, speed indicators in miles per hour. You have knots on the inside down there. So, we fly it with reference to miles. So at 85 we are going to rotate. However, Comanche pilots must be aware that at lighter takeoff weights and or when using flaps, the aircraft will become light on its main gear at slower airspeed, typically close to 65 miles per hour. When this happens, it's important for the pilot to continue applying sufficient back pressure on the control column to prevent the aircraft from wheel bearing on the nose wheel. Therefore, a takeoff considerably earlier than 85 miles should be expected and planned for under these conditions. Okay, so we are relatively light today, so we are going to expect it from about 65 knots onwards, and we are going to use a little bit of back pressure there. And we are going to try to prevent that nose wheel shimmy from happening. So, after the takeoff has proceeded to the point at which a landing gear on the runway can no longer be made with the wheels down, in the event of loss of power, the gear should be retracted. As soon as the gear is up and sufficient altitude has been gained, typically 1000 feet above ground level, reduce power to the climb setting. For minimum takeoff run in the Comanche, the flaps should be lowered to the recommended 18 degree, which is the 2/3 position. With the flaps in this position, takeoff run will be reduced by approximately 20%. Normally, flaps are not used during crosswind takeoffs. It is desirable to hold the nose wheel on the runway until a lighter than normal takeoff speed is obtained, then apply a definite but not abrupt back pressure on the control column to lift the airplane from the runway. Once airborne, set the required crab angle, retract the gear and continue the climb. Okay, so best rate of climb speed 95, and that is going to be reduced by 1 mile per 1000 feet of altitude. And a good rate of climb is obtained at 100 to 110 miles per hour while forward speed is increased, reducing climb power below 95 miles at low altitude has the added disadvantage of cutting down forward visibility. Okay, so we are going to climb at 95 miles in the traffic pattern and then at 110 for our en route operation. Okay, so that's pretty much what we need to do over here. So let's quickly go over our checklist to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So run-up, we have basically completed that. So before takeoff, controls free and correct, elevator trim, that is neutral. I never touched it so far. Rudder trim as required, we're gonna keep it in neutral. And then the door is latched, flaps are up, fuel selectors on the desired tank, fuel pump on, mixture, full rich, propeller, full forward, carb heat, off, engine gauges, they are all checked and within limits, everything looking good over here. So, pitot heat, we'll turn it on for all flights, and the strobe light comes on, landing lights on, and that is the before takeoff checklist complete. Okay, so that's going to be important in the climb, but we'll have the tablet available for that. So, transponder is on, park and brake off, let's go ahead and go flying for the very first time in the Comanche. So again, the compass and the headings are looking good. That's all within acceptable range. So let's see how that airplane flies. I'm really excited. If everything is as I expect it to be, this is going to be about the best flight model we've seen in this simulator at all. But let's see what's gonna happen. So, runway 07, that's confirmed. Might as well quickly set the heading bug. Do that. Okay. Ready? So, smoothly apply full power. Like so. A little bit of right rudder is needed to keep it on the center line. A little bit more right rudder at the moment. Okay, speed is alive. 65 is passed. 85, rotate. Okay, 95 knots. And let's raise the landing gear, as we can no longer make a straight-in landing anyway. Okay, climbing up. So, let's get the airplane out of the traffic pattern, and when we're out of the pattern, we're going to start doing a little bit of air work, and when we're done with the air work, we are going to do a little bit of touch-and-go training on one of the German North Sea islands over here. So, climbing up. The rate of climb is surprisingly little over here, getting me only something just below 1,000 feet a minute, so let's continue up. Oh, okay, my landing gear is still down. Interesting. So it seems like the airplane doesn't use the simulator's default command, which I have assigned to my joysticks, but instead you really need to use that input configurator that comes with the airplane. Obviously, I didn't do that, because I thought, like, well, surely it must read the simulator's own commands, but okay. So, we're passing through 1,000 feet in the climb. Let's set our climb power there. So, fuel pump off at 1,000. That is the fuel pump off. Then power, reduce, and we are looking for 2,400 RPMs and 24 inches on the manifold. So that's 24 inches manifold, and let's reduce the propeller. Here we go. So that is roughly 24 and 24. So we got a warning on the cylinder temperature over here, but looking at the gauge, it actually seems quite fine to me, so I probably didn't calibrate this. Let's clear this out, thank you, and that's it. Okay, we're up and climbing. So, that is pretty much it. Mixture lean as required. Well, we aren't going to climb too high for this one, so I'm just about going to put that away for now as we're climbing. So, I have a little bit of right-hand rudder in, as you can see on my pedals, and apart from that, the airplane is climbing nice and stable. So, in case you wondered, this is our pitch trim up here. I find that really funny on the overhead with that little way to turn it there, but I guess that is how the airplane flies. That is how the airplane flies. By the way, talking about how the airplane flies, the very first quick notice over here, you can see it really maintains the 95 knots that I've trimmed out excellently. And this is what I would expect an airplane to do. So, gear is up, and now it's off as well. Okay, per 1,000 feet of climb, our manifold pressure drops by about an inch, so we need to add a little bit more throttle in order to get back to our desired climb power. And for now, we're just going to climb this out, and at a good altitude, say 4,000 feet, we're going to do a little bit of air work with the plane. So looking into the product manual and in terms of what we can expect, let's talk a little bit about stalls. The gross weight stalling speed with the flaps and gear down is 64 miles per hour. The stall speed will increase by about 6 miles per hour with the flaps up. All controls are effective at speeds down to the stalling speed. Stalls are gentle and the airplane is easily controlled if back pressure is released from the yoke. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. 4,000 feet I would say is more than sufficient for our experiments. So let's try a power off stall at first. Let's level it out, like so. A little bit of nose down trim. Here we go. Okay, so first things I want to try. Let's bring this back to 4,000, just to be on the safe side over here. And the first thing I want to try now is to see how the airplane behaves when we are flying. So we are in more or less 4,000 feet. Let's quickly trim it out. And by the way, I've let go of the rudder now at the higher speed. We don't need that anymore. And for the power, let's go somewhere to 21 inches and 2200 RPMs. And that should be a nice little setting for a little bit of air work. So we are well clear in the airspace, nothing around us. Let's quickly trim it out. And once we have that, which is pretty much now, let's go ahead and do a little bit of experiments. So I'm going to start with a little bit of left and right rolling. So this is left aileron together with the rudder. Oh, look at how nicely you can maintain that. Look at how nicely you can control where the plane is pointing. This is something that I never really liked in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And in this one, it seems the Accusim 2.0 engine really is doing its job. So the combination between aileron and rudder feels quite a bit better than in anything directly in MSFS. Okay then. Let's go ahead and do some steep turns left and right to get comfortable with the way the airplane handles. Let's try 45 degrees of bank. Maintain the altitude. And just turn to a heading south. Like so. And let's go the other way around now. So 45 degrees to the other side. Maintain 4,000 and we'll turn back to a northerly heading. Let's try 60 degrees of bank. See how it's gonna handle then. Okay, it still feels nice. So let's return it back to normal flight. Next thing we are going to do is a little bit of stalling. So let's get the power off. That's the gear warning horn you hear there. Can we silence that somehow? I don't think we can, but that's fine. No, it doesn't look like we can silence that, but who knows, it's probably for the better of it. Okay, so let's pitch it up. That's a stall warning. Okay, I simply let go, and it's recovered. So give it a bit of power. And here we go. Okay, let's try that with the flaps out now. So, flaps out, gear down. Okay. The light is illuminated already. Let's see, aerodynamically, and down we go. Okay. Okay, feels very good. Then let's go ahead and retract those flaps and landing gear. Here we go, and the gear goes up. Very cool. Okay, let's fly out to the East Frisian Islands and do a little bit of air work, or rather a little bit of touch and go training over there. Okay, landing gear is up and off. So we're in 3,500 feet. That is a good cruising altitude. Keep in mind, VFR, you always are supposed to add 500 feet to your cruising altitudes. So 3,500, 4,500, and so on. We're going westbound, so technically speaking, we should be in 4,500. However, below the transition altitude, or below 5,000 feet, in Germany at least, it is permissible to use other levels as well. Okay then. Let's have a quick look into the power setting table in the product manual so that we can experiment a bit with some proper power setting procedures. So here's our product manual, and I think the performance chapter was quite at the beginning. Yep, performance, here we go. Then cruise power, looking between 3,000 and 4,000 feet and 55% power, as that is all we need. So we need about 2,200 RPMs and 20 inches. So let's give it 20 inches. And it looks like our manifold pressure gauge is stuck on the bottom there. Let's see, that may be a bit of engine icing. Let's put the carburetor heat on. See what's gonna happen. Oh, I might just about have broken something on the engine as well. But no, look at that. With the carburetor heat on, the manifold pressure is coming back up. So we had a bit of carburetor icing there. It can happen, even at outside temperatures, in the region around 21 degrees centigrade. Carburetor icing can still happen. Okay. So, now that the icing is clear, let's go down to 20 inches. Like so. 20 inches, 2,200 RPMs. So that's pretty much what we have now. Okay. We shouldn't run the carb heat continuously, so let's turn it back off. And since we are cruising, let's also pull the mixture off a little bit. We're looking for a 55% power cruise, so basically we can just pull the mixture until the fuel flow is here in the 55% range. That really makes it very easy to lean this. Obviously, you can use the fuel computer for leaning as well. That is a little bit more complex, but overall it's not that hard either. If you're familiar with how to do this in the Black Square aircraft, then it works pretty similar in here. Okay then, our power is pretty much set. And we are more or less reaching our East Frisian Islands already, so it was a pretty short cruise indeed, but I am absolutely happy with that. So let's go ahead and fly over a little bit to the left, and I believe the one on the left here should be Norderney. I might be mistaken. I'm sure somebody is going to point it out. And we don't really need our GPS to find any airfields here. However, just to show you, if we zoom out a little bit. Okay, then we have Just over there and Norderney on our right hand side. So let's have a look from the outside. So this is Norderney right over here, and then we have Just over here. And Just is the one where we are going to do our touch and goes. So let's fly it straight over there. Beautiful looking model from the outside. Beautiful sounding as well. Makes me a happy pilot. Makes me a happy pilot indeed. Okay then, traffic pattern altitude is going to be 600 feet, so that is pretty low. So I would say it is about time to start our descent. And while doing so, I'm just about going to keep my power settings as they are for now. For the record, down here is our airfield, but I just about want to experiment a bit more with the flight model before we are going to do a couple of touch and goes. So let's just pitch it down and get the speed all the way up into the amber band. Might stay clear a bit of the area over which you fly the patterns. So listen to the different sounds, but also feel how the flight control's got a lot more power when you're at those high speeds. You really got to be careful here that you don't overstress the plane. And if you're wondering, this is roughly 160 knots. So we're doing 190 miles per hour, and that equals about 160 knots. Okay, so let's not overstress it. I'm going to pull the speed back out again. Pull the power a bit. Like so. And that's going to make our life much easier. Okay then. They're using a northerly traffic pattern at use, so I'm just about going to complete the turn to the left side over here, and then we'll fly in between the islands to go north of the island and then start our pattern work. In the meantime, maybe we can spot a windsock on the field, since we don't have any air traffic control over here, but I'm sure we will be able to find a windsock in order to determine the active landing direction. Okay, let's not go too much into idle. Going to low altitude so we can increase the mixture a little bit. I'm just not willing to put the mixture all the way forward yet. Okay, and here we go. I'm just not willing to put the mixture all the way forward yet, because running at low altitudes, especially at lower power settings, it might be easy to start fooling your spark plugs if you use full mixture at that point. Also, it's just a waste of fuel. You can see the engine runs fine at the power setting with the fuel flow being down here, so why should I give it more fuel than it absolutely needs to? Okay, we're 1,000 above pattern altitude. I am going to pass about over the field to see if we can find the windsock. Obviously, in real life, we wouldn't do this. We would simply talk to the guy sitting in the tower down there. Now, in Germany, pretty much any small airfield has not an air traffic controller, but somebody on the other side of the radio is going to give you traffic and wind information. They are not permitted to give you any sort of clearances, so don't expect that, but you can expect a good piece of traffic information as you approach airports like this. Especially here, the East Frisian Islands. By the way, the scenery is from Aerosoft. Especially here on the East Frisian Islands, when you come here in summer, you can be absolutely sure that you will have traffic. Okay, here's the windsock. So we gotta do a right-hand pattern and land in that direction on runway, what's that? Gotta be 2 something. On runway 2 something. Okay, obviously you're not supposed to do this. Neither are we supposed to overfly the beaches. But I'm just about going to descend all the way into the pattern now. And then turn for a right-hand downwind. So let's use a little bit of carb heat once more, just to be sure that our carburetor is actually clear for the pattern work. And as we are turning downwind, we can lower the landing gear, and the flaps can be lowered from 125 miles onwards, but it is recommended to do it below 100, as it increases service life. For the approach, we are going to approach with 90 miles with full flaps, or 95 miles with no flaps, so that is pretty much all we need to know. Okay, let's start reducing our airspeed. We're on the downwind, gear down. Okay, pretty much like so. So reaching 100, first notch of flaps. You could see the nose dropping quite aggressively there when I took those flaps out, and that is actually expected, because keep in mind we do not have automatic flap extension or smooth flap extension, but look at those flaps when I select the next setting. They simply drop out straight away, and you feel it in the flight model straight away as well. Okay, now comes the challenge of finding the airfield, and I wouldn't be surprised if I totally messed that up on the first attempt. Indeed, the view seems blocked a bit, but I believe the field is down here. Okay, getting a bit slow. Okay, so mixture max, prop control max, carb heat in, fuel pump on, and that should be all we need. So 95 is our approach speed. Let's get the airplane down. We're going to do a couple touch and goes, and when we're done with that, we'll fly back to Emden for the full stop landing. So, certainly feels like I'm a bit high right now. Let's pull the power. And, yep, just as I imagined, when you pull the power, the Comanche goes down as well. Okay, 95 is what we should remain. And note that pitching moment here as I'm increasing or decreasing thrust. Okay, 95 knots. Actually, we should be at 90 since we have the flaps out. Let's reduce it a little bit. 90 miles an hour. That looks good. Okay, wind seems to be a little bit from the right-hand side. Oh, a bit of a crap angle as well. Okay, idle. E-crap. Touchdown. Okay, flaps up. Smoothly increase power. Make sure the nose wheel doesn't lift off as we are still trimmed for the arrival. Okay, power set. And it's flying. Alright. No immediate landing possible. Landing gear up. And let's start a shallow right-hand turn. We are still pretty low. .600 feet Patron altitude. Okay, let's get the power back. I'm going to use 20 inches and 2000 RPMs. Like so. Don't climb away, fuel pump off, and that is our procedure complete. Okay, down there is our field. Let's bring it into the right downwind once again. Okay, I climbed it to 800 feet. That's fine as well. We can maintain that. The birds will be thankful, just like all the other animals down here. Okay, that's our right downwind. So, we'll pull the power once again. Fuel pump on, landing gear, down. Oh, my apologies for the little cut over here. Unfortunately, there was some real-life event that took a little bit of priority. But we are back in the right-hand downwind, and this time we are going to do a flap up landing. and the airplane is pretty much prepared for that. So let's go ahead and start our base turn. Again, this time we do need the landing gear, obviously. So this time we are going to approach at 95 miles an hour, and we're going to make one more touch and go before we return to Emden for the full stop landing. Okay, properly with full forward, like so, and then we are on the right-hand base. So down there is our field, hidden just behind the struts of the window. And then we can start a nice and shallow turn onto the final. Angle looks quite good to me. And let's do a very quick check. Our gear is down, the flaps are up, and the lights are all on. Okay. And here we are in the final. So 95 miles. And this time we might float a bit more, so I'm going to pull the power a tiny bit earlier. Okay, a bit more power. That looks better. And immediately I need to retrim the airplane. That is quite nice. Okay, 95 looks good. Okay then, power off. And we're down. Alright, a little bit of forward trim there, and then let's go. Power set. 85, rotate. Nice. Okay, rudder back to neutral and gear up. .95 is a good speed, at least to gain some initial altitude, and off to the left, back towards the shore. Alright then, let's go ahead and accelerate to 110, as we said earlier, would be a good climb speed. The course somewhere in the region of about 150 should be good. Trim it out like so, and you can see flies really well. Flies really, really well. Okay, passing 1,000. So manifold pressure 24 inches. And the RPM's down to 2400. Here we go. And that's just about perfect. We'll climb up to 2,000 feet only. That should be more than sufficient for our flight. And when we're in cruise, let's experiment a little bit with the different cruising speed tables that we have available. Okay, here we go, reaching 2,000. Perfect, so one more thing I want to test in this flight is the capabilities of the Autopilot. So the Comanche has a typical general aviation autopilot installed, and many of you will know what that means. Let's see. Autopilot switch on. First of all, we wait for it to power up. Okay, the autopilot is ready. Let's put it on in the heading hold mode. So that's heading hold. And let's also put on the altitude hold mode. And now it's holding our present altitude. And that is pretty much how basic it is. It is capable of tracking a GPS track. However, that GPS track can only be followed on a straight line. So when you have to make a turn, you got to use heading mode. And then when you're on a straight line again, you can once again put it back into the track mode. That's pretty much how it works. Okay, we accelerated a little bit. Let's have another look into the product manual to check our target power settings once more. This time we want to do 75%. We're at roughly 2,000 feet, so that means we're going to use 2300 versus 24.8 inches. Okay, so let's do that. 24.8 inches means an increase, and 2300 RPMs a decrease. Well, this time let's set the RPMs first, 2300, then 24.8 inches manifold pressure. Okay, this is full throttle, all we're gonna get. Can trim it a little bit, and we can reduce our fuel flow, 75%. Nice. Yeah, this is getting a little bit hot, so let's give it a bit more. Fuel. Okay, we are losing manifold pressure again. That means we have a little bit of carburetor icing, so let's pull the cockpit on. And then we've got the autopilot giving us the trim warning over here. So, there you can see it. And this basically means the autopilot wants a bit of down trim because it is unable to maintain altitude with the elevator authority it has. So let's give it a little bit of down trim, like so. Now the autopilot can better adjust the elevator in order to maintain the altitude as we have commanded it to do. Now it wants a bit of up trim, so that was too much down trim. And like that we are trimmed again. And now the autopilot is doing the fine tuning. So that's pretty much how you do it. Quite easy once it's understood, but then again, a little bit tricky at first. Okay, and the cockpit did a good job. So let's put the manifold pressure back to 24.8 as we want it to be. Okay, and that is 24.7, 24.8, good enough. 76% power. So let's lean it a little bit. And that's fine. Okay, cool. So we've got Emden coming up on the front right hand side there. And looking at the direction of the windmills over here, it looks like the wind has shifted a bit. So we are going to enter directly a right hand base to land in the opposite direction where we came from. Okay, autopilot disconnect. Let's pull the power. Back to 20 inches. I'm not even going to touch the elevator over here, and I'm going to fly the airplane right into, or directly into a right-hand base. Let's try to evade as many of those farms as possible. Not always possible, but we can do our best. Okay, power going back. Let's evade that city in front of us. That is actually where the downwind is. Patron altitude is 1,000 feet. And over here we've got a good view into the entire Patron. Nobody there. So let's join the right-hand base. So I'm flying a little bit faster right now, and that is because I want to see how well we can reduce our speed if we really have to. So keep in mind, from 150 miles an hour onwards, we are allowed to lower the landing gear, and we have those 150 miles now. Let's go gear down and see how good that actually works. So I'm maintaining altitude. And look at that. It slows down really nicely. Okay then. Down there is our field. Time to descend a little bit more. And we're at 120, so flaps can come out a notch. And there is our runway. Flaps can come out another notch. Perfect. Okay, flaps full. So, 90 miles an hour. Perfect. Quick check, copied off. Prop control mixture full forward, and landing gear is down. Fuel pump on, lights on. Looks perfect. I'm flying a little bit higher than the puppy, that's fully on purpose. And keep in mind, you do not have to follow the puppy if you are not flying IFR. So for that reason, we can certainly approach a little bit higher here. That keeps us a bit out of the turbulences from the trees and the houses just down here on the final. Okay then, idle power, let's bring it down. You can really feel the airplane hanging in the controls right now. Okay, decrap. And we're down. Nice! Okay, look at that. We can't even vacate on Charlie. That is a short landing run. Okay, get in a little bit of power. Like so. Okay, flaps up. Let's get our after landing procedures out. Come on. Alright, so after landing, flaps up, strobes off, fuel pump off, mixture, lean as required. We're gonna lean just a little bit, add the trim to neutral. And that is our after landing procedures complete. Okay, we're going to park right next to the OLT Cessna over there. We even got the marshal out today. Very well. This is full ground steering, by the way. This is about as tight as it gets. And here we are. So, lights coming off. Let's do the shutdown procedures. Then, park and brake. Set radios. Off. Transponder off. Avionic master off. Master switch. Off. Throttle. Closed. Mixture. Cut off. Magnetos off. Okay, control wheels secure. I just love this control log. I totally love it. Okay, doors, windows closed, tie down secure, shutdown checklist complete. Okay, cool. And that's it, my friends. That is the Piper Comanche. There is a lot more to show about this airplane. I could really only touch the utmost minimum things over here, so I can absolutely recommend you to have a more thorough look at this airplane than what I could do in this video. However, if I made a video covering just about everything, then I would probably have done a 10-hour video out of this. So This is just about how good of an airplane this is. Alright, so the Comanche, $49.99. An absolute recommendation. The airplane is absolutely superb. We might just about go back in and have a look into the tablet just to see if we damaged anything. So how about we do that? Let's go to the maintenance, do an inspection of the plane. Everything looking good on the outside. Let's do an inspection of the engine, see what happened over here. Okay, everything good. Engine analyzer, well, looks about fine as well. However, I do recall things were a little bit greener before. In any case, battery, okay. Gotta check the charge, but that is okay. Alright, so that is just about how nice of a plane this is. Can I recommend it? Absolutely. Did A2A pay me to pay this? Absolutely not. Indeed, when I asked them about a review copy, they said like, nah, we prefer reviewers to purchase the plane because it means they give a more honest opinion on the aircraft. And I can totally understand that. So, here is my honest opinion. Go and get it. That's about as great as it gets. The flight model felt absolutely superb, better than anything in MSFS, even though the black square aircraft are getting close. But especially the landing really is a joy. I couldn't feel any of that floating that we're so used to from Microsoft Flight Simulator. So overall, would I recommend getting the Comanche? Well, I took it away. Of course I would. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching, everyone. I sure hope that you enjoyed this one. So, head over to the A2A store, get that airplane. I'm not saying that because I've been paid to say it, I'm saying it because I really mean it. And just before you head off, I would appreciate if you could hit that like button for the video. Comment to let me know what you think of it. And finally, subscribe to the channel for more. If you really like what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link that you can find in the video description below. But until then, see you next time. This is me signing off, and I see you in the virtual skies, whichever airplane you're flying, hoping that it's going to be this one.